Good evening and welcome to the Council Committee meeting on finance. As usual, you're being audio and video recorded. We're going to start with just a couple of, let me put this over here, a couple of items, and just so members of the public know, I'm doing this a little differently. I'm putting the public comment and question period just a little bit later so that we can get an update from the superintendent first, so that we're all on the same page with that. So if you could call the roll.
Sure. Councillor Maori.
Here.
Councillor Moulton.
Here.
Councillor Elkins.
Here.
And Councillor Labarge. Here. Have a quorum.
Okay, great. Okay, so first up is approval of the minutes of January 8th, 2025.
I move to approve the January 8th minutes of the Finance Committee.
Second.
Okay, so I think we have Councillor Moulton and then a second by Councillor Labarge, but I'll try to watch Zoom too.
That's fine. I didn't hear it. Okay. It's fine.
So, okay. Any, yeah.
Discussion. Councillor Maori.
Yes.
Councillor Moulton.
Yes.
Councillor Elkins.
Yes.
And Councillor Labarge.
Okay.
Here.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the minutes are approved, and we're moving on. So we have one order, the order 25.217, in order to make a $600,000 mid-year appropriation to NPS, and we're going to get an update from the superintendent about the priority list. So do you see her? Let me see. Hold on just one moment. Okay. She had something right before her, so she may be running late. Let's see. Let's see. 7. No one sees, you're not seeing?
No,
okay.
she hasn't.
So I think she'll probably be here any minute, so I suppose we can, if counselors have anything they want to say, they're certainly welcome to. But what we're going to do is get the update from Dr. Bonner. We can have a brief conversation among the committee members, but then I actually wanted to kind of very quickly get to the public comment and question period. And then we'll have a chance later as a committee to deliberate just among ourselves.
And Dr. Bonner is here now. I'm just making her a co-host.
Okay. So, one moment. Great. Good evening, Dr. Bonner. We'll just give her a minute. I wish I played an instrument. I could just kind of.
Good evening. I'm just getting to a quiet space because we are just finishing. Sorry.
No, yeah, you told us that you had something right before, so I wasn't surprised.
Yes. This evening we are doing our interviews for JFK principal. So sorry, we just literally finished and they're still discussing. So I'm just going to move out of the room. Okay. Okay, good evening. Do you want me to just talk a little bit about the request? I kind of missed the very beginning.
Yeah, that's fine. Yes, we were thinking, and we could, if you'd like us to share your spreadsheet, but we're really just looking to, get updates on the list you made of the positions that would be most, impactful, and the prioritized list, if you want to give that. And then after you speak, we're going to have a public comment and question period in which Counselor Moulton will track questions, and then we're hoping you could stick around and we could ask you any questions from that. But it will be Counselor Moulton asking those questions at the end of that period. Does that make sense to you? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. So, yes, I would say you could just start with the elaborating on that, the spreadsheet that you shared with us.
Okay, so in my original memo to request the $600,000 appropriation, I did express that I was going to reach out to each individual building principal who had the opportunity to speak to their staff as well as their school council. And the recommendations, which hopefully you all can share with the public, I will just briefly talk about each of these positions that were requested. And also, you will note that some of the requests are non-personnel, and so really there was no clarity on whether we were just looking to fill personnel positions, or were we really just looking at all overall needs for the schools. So I'm going to start with Bridge Street, and we all know that Bridge Street School is one of our schools that has a population with great needs, is a transient population. It is one of our Title I schools. And so the request was to restore 2 positions that were cut from the property. And so the staff were actually surveyed, so I actually got the component of the responses from the survey, and it was not all the staff that responded, but we do know that these have been some requests that have been made throughout the current year when we had public comments from our staff, from our caregivers, of concerns about addressing the needs of our children who are behind. And so the interventionists, the reading and math interventionists, would actually be focusing on grades 3 through 5 for the remainder of the year. Okay. And just to let everyone know that there is a math and a reading interventionist currently in the building. These would be additional reading and math interventionists. Jackson Street requested to open a third section of 2nd grade. That is their main request. This was a position that was cut last year. And then the new request would be a combination of a math and reading interventionist. This would be a 1-person position to do both content areas. And so then the additional request was a general paraeducator who could be placed pretty much anywhere in the building where as needed, and then to restore the 1st grade paraeducator who we did cut from the budget last year. And then there were some non-personnel requests, sorry, I'm a little tongue-tied this evening. For one, we will need to outfit that 3rd section of 2nd grade. For Lee's Elementary School, looking to hire a new general paraeducator, 2 math tutors, and then 2 additional paraeducators who would help to cover duties such as recess and cafeteria duties. And then also to extend the hours of the current BCBA, who right now is 0.67, we would make that person whole Ryan Road, there are 2 positions. One is a restoration of a special education teacher position that was cut from last year, and to add a paraeducator for tiered support to help throughout the building. For the middle school, there is a request for 2 full-time special education paraprofessionals that are needed in response to some new IEPs that we are now addressing. And so whether we get the appropriation or not, that will be addressed. Then we request 2 full-time general education paraeducators to also be used mainly to cover transitions in the hallways, monitor the hallways, recess duty, as well as the CAF duty. And then additionally to hire a 0.5 full-time world language teacher, which is actually a partial restoration from what was cut from last school year's budget. Let's see, for the high school, as I expressed the last time we met, when the full body of the city council met, we are off into our 2nd semester. The classes are fixed. It would be very difficult to bring in new content teachers at this time. But the request is for a full-time school psychologist and then an additional special education teacher at the high school. So those are the requests that were made by the building principals. And you will note, although each building received an allocation based upon their enrollment, we did not come up to the 600,000. We were just about halfway.
Okay, thank you. I'm thinking maybe, you know, if committee members have we could do 1 round of questions just to, if you need some clarification before we go into public comment and questions.
Yeah, I got some questions.
Okay.
Thank you for being here, Superintendent Bonnet. I really appreciate you here. I do have some questions for you. On the Leeds Elementary School, 2 general educators for cafe, recess, and monitoring. And that's at $17,478.34. My question is, which I've done, and I brought this to the mayor, oh God, probably about a month ago or so, about community care. Have you ever used community care's department?
So not communities care in terms of getting volunteers to help the schools.
Yes.
So we utilize VINs, and we also, there's Northampton neighbors. So I haven't connected with community cares.
Okay, because there's some value there, which I brought up to the mayor about a month ago or so, whatever, at city council, of thinking about them. Community care has expanded their CC hours to Sunday through Friday to 8:30 a.m. From Friday 8:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock p.m. But they also have hired a 3rd cohort of responders that integrate and collaborate with the Northampton Public Schools by hiring school community responders who have expertise in school settings and provide an additional emotional support outlet and harm reduction model within the schools. And that's in our budget book on page 78, and I did bring that up on the floor at City Council at one point. To me, spending, what I'm looking at here, to monitor, okay, where is that part? general paraeducators for cafe/recess monitoring. You know, they are excellent community care. And this third new thing that they have here, program, they are trained for exactly what you are looking for. If you're looking for them to, somebody to come in and, you know, watch the hallways or whatever, or in the cafeteria, you really should talk with Meredith O'Leary, who is our commissioner of the Board of Health, because that's something to look at. At one point, they had 15 employees, and they have this new cohort now. And to me, they go through intensive training, intensive. I wanted to let you know I have concerns about that. Also, another one is, to me, for them to monitor the hallways, recess, and the cafe, when we know we got them, which is under a grant. And then another one I have here is for Bridge Street Elementary, recess and gym equipment and fencing. What is the fencing all about?
So apparently there's an area on the playground that needs repair fencing to just kind of, I guess this has been a request that was been going on for the last few years, but it's not on the Capitol. But
Okay.
It is a need.
Okay. And the recess and the gym equipment, can you explain the equipment?
So it's just a general request for additional recess equipment, so that would probably be just playing balls, maybe
Okay.
frisbees and so on, and whatever they can use also as gym equipment as well.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bonner, for all the work you did in the last 2 weeks. Appreciate the specificity of your report to us, and the thought and the work that went into it. I have questions in the context of the last mid-year appropriation that we approved in January, $40,000 for 2 paraeducators at Bridge Street. It's my understanding that money will be rolled into the FY26 budget. And last time you met with us on February 20th, I heard you say, if there's a need, it's not just for 11 weeks. The request needs to be thought out and looked at long term. So my question is, do you view this as only a $294,883 additional money for the current year's budget, or do you hope to see this money also allocated for FY26, so that the positions that we would be financing would be continued?
Okay, so not having the knowledge of whether this will be rolled into the base or not, the requests that were made, I can tell you that the majority of these requests are requests that the principals have also made for the fiscal 2026 budget. And so we know with any new positions, it's going to increase the requests that we ask in our budget. And so with our impending target that we're trying to reach, something will have to go in order for anything new. And so this year, the school committee has tasked me with looking at three forms of the budget, or literally three different budgets. So one being the targeted budget to meet the fiscal stability plan for the city, which would be at 4%. The second is And then the third is what we're gonna call our strong budget. And the strong budget will include any new requests that the principals have made. So to go directly back to your question, Counselor Moulton, is that we were not sure if this is going to be rolled into next year's budget. So principals were probably very cautious to select positions that can have the most impact right now, and if there is the potential for them to continue in next year, it would meet the request of what the principals have made for their fiscal 2026 budget. So for instance, Bridge Street had made the request of restoring the math interventionist and the reading interventionist. They have a desire to be able to meet more of the needs of our students, and that those two positions would solely focus on the upper grades 3 through 5. And that was the request and the justification. So if we receive these positions now, they could work or begin working with our students with the goal that they will continue next year. And I do know that by looking at this now, the actual cost, it is only this amount, I'm just gonna round it to 300,000. If we're looking at this, and this is the last quarter of the fiscal year, so we would have to multiply this by 4 to actually estimate what we need to roll in the base to be able to provide these or continue these positions. So now on the other part of that, there are some positions that if we don't roll this in the base, it will not hurt us to lose. So for instance, tutors. Tutors are something that is not, we are limited in how we use tutors, and it's not something that has to continue for next year. But it is an opportunity for our students to receive some additional support within the last few weeks of school. The clerical position, so we know that right now it is at 0.5. The hope is that is restored. There was only one school that made that request at this point in time, and that was an area in which we reduced or cut. I'd rather say reduce in force or reduction in force. So we want to do the right things for our students, and I know that the majority of the focus is the student-facing positions. So when we start to look at our budget for next year, we really have to make hard decisions in terms of where cuts may have to be if we are not meeting that appropriation. And to say all of that, I know that the effort has been placed on meeting the needs now, and I have said, but this is not the recommendation from the school committee. This is just a recommendation and an opinion for me, is that our focus really should be for next school year and looking at our funding and starting fresh and being able to bring in some of these new positions to be able to address the growing needs of our students. It's not the growing enrollment, it's the growing needs of our students that we have to address. So I know that the city council has a hard decision, and it does affect, it will significantly affect the budget in years out for what we do tonight. We're looking at the now, but we have to look at the future projections of what we will be able to continue to sustain in funding our schools. The other concern is that waiting to hear what's going to happen to our federal funding, and that's about $1.7 million. And so what will happen if we lost that funding? That funding actually helps to support many of our positions in our schools, as well as some programs and other curricular materials. So I I'm very cautious, but I am doing what was asked of me by the school committee. The list has been put together. These are the requests. And we hope that whatever decision is made, to know that we're going to be asking this again next year. I mean, so when do you say enough is enough for us coming back and forth with requests to increase our appropriations?
Could I ask one follow-up?
Of course, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. I appreciate that, that very honest answer. So my follow-up is, yes, our decision-making tonight and tomorrow night will have implications for years out. But specifically about hiring at this time of year, my concern is that if we are looking to fill critical positions that you, as the leader of the school department, believe should continue on, I think we're limiting the applicant pool if we're hiring in March, because I heard you say last meeting that teachers who are currently employed are not going to be applying for jobs, short-term jobs, at this time of year if they're already in positions. Is that correct?
That is correct. The quality of the candidate that will be submitting applications for these positions will be very questionable. It definitely limits our chances for getting a strong, qualified candidate. And then, again, there's no promise or assurance that we can give our candidates that this position will be long-term. So, I think that we will probably, if anyone is applying, it might be a retiree that may want to take on a position for a few weeks, maybe a recent graduate or someone who is getting ready to graduate that may want to take on a position in a few weeks. Maybe easier to get tutors, in terms of someone willing to do that. But the interventionist, a special education teacher, I have to tell you, even at the beginning of the year, it was so difficult to fill some of the vacancies that we have, and we still have some vacancies, specifically in our support areas in special education. We've had difficulties finding BCBAs. We're getting ready to lose some of our staff who are going to other districts. So it is just, it will be a difficult time for us to secure someone who is well qualified to be able to work with our students.
Thank you.
And we just don't want bodies. We want someone who is going to be professional and do right by our children.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I see that Councilor Elkins has her hand up, and then I would like to make a comment, but then I do really want to get to the public. So Councilor Elkins, why don't you go, and then I'll say, ask my question after that.
Okay, great. Just two quick questions. Thanks, Dr. Bonner, for being here tonight. The tutors, would those be contract employees, or would they be contracted out from other agencies, or they be in contract employees of the city?
Oh, okay. So we would hire them so that we wouldn't use other agencies to bring in tutors. We would actually post for the hiring of a tutor, and it does not fall into any of our union units. So it would just be kind of a non-contracted person for the last few weeks of school.
Okay. But a contract in the sense that would they be like hourly employees, or?
It would be hourly employees.
Okay. And then my second question is, if it comes to pass that any of these staff positions we are not able to maintain, do the numbers in the ask that we have before us, does that account for unemployment that might come along with the package of an employee that we couldn't keep?
It doesn't come with unemployment, and it also, for the full the benefits, which we know the city side handles for the schools.
Okay.
Okay, so Dr. Bonner, well, I just want to make a statement to committee members, just a reminder that the order we got is the school committee did not, make the choice to say that those positions all needed to be rolled in. So that's something we can certainly talk about, and there's lots of there's a range there. There's some positions we could decide to fund to roll in, and some that would be just for this year, which is actually the order. And so I guess, Dr. Bonner, my question to you is, certainly interventionists could have a major impact this year and would be really cost effective in the sense of keeping, maybe getting students up to grade level and keeping students from falling further behind, which is certainly going to cost us, not just, ethically, but cost us money later to catch them up. So certainly I would think math and reading interventionists even just for this year is a wise investment. And I hear your concerns about, hiring at this point in the year. We will not know until we try, and I think it is worth trying for the students of this city. So I guess my question to you at this point before we go to the public is, do you see that the interventionists would be even if that wasn't even if those positions were not rolled in, would yield benefit to our students this year?
Absolutely, and I think I expressed that when I was sharing the justification of that request.
Yeah.
Even though it's short term, the students who would be better serviced with those different or new positions would be our upper grades, our grades 3 through 5. So far lately, our math and reading interventionists that are currently employed in the district, they really do try to focus on the band of K through 2. So it provides an opportunity to be able to have some supports for our older students.
Okay, thank you very much. Is it a quick? Oh, okay.
Yes, Dr. Bonner, I have two
No, let me get the.
At Bridge Street School, Ryan Road School, and the other schools. We have children there and youth with special needs, artistic, whatever. Are you going to, because there is a legal part of autistic having 5 days a week, drop down to 3 days a week, how is that going to improve when there is a law like that?
Well, first of all, Councilor Labarge, we have made a request for an additional special education teacher for Ryan Road. And so we really have been trying to provide the services for each of the needs or their IEP needs for our students. And so the request for that additional special education teacher will help to offset the caseload of the current special education teachers who are in the building. And so I'm not quite sure how you are differentiating a 3-day program versus a 5-day program, but we want our students to be in our schools for the 5 days. Now the exception is our preschool program, which is separate to our regular K through 12 programming. But for our children, especially our children who are receiving IEP services, we are making the best effort to be able to meet those IEP grids, and so, or I should say, service grids. And so, I will share with this because I know that there has been some concerns about us not meeting some of our students' IEP plans, and partially that is due to vacancies that we have been unable to fill. And so our Director of Student Services has been utilizing contract services and working to try to meet those specifications on IEPs. And then also, we have some staff, some very, very important staff that are, on long-term leaves or absences. And so we've been working around that. And so families should have been corresponded with in terms of making sure that they realize what changes are occurring and how we are meeting the IEP plans. And you all, if you will forgive me for just 1 minute, I just have to close out on
Okay,
the group that is in the other room.
that's fine.
So, yeah, okay, Dr. Bonner, we'll start public comment.
Yeah.
Okay.
She had to go into another room.
Okay, so the plan was that we were going to do public comment. Public comment means you can comment on anything. I would love to actually hear your questions, and Counselor Moulton will track them, and then at the end of the session, we'll go back to whoever's appropriate, probably Dr. Bonner, but maybe whoever's the appropriate person to ask those questions. So we're saying, so 2 minutes, I will start. So folks on Zoom who want to give a comment, you could start raising your hand if you'd like. And I will start with, I'll go back and forth from the room to Zoom. So the first on the sheet is Ray Paquette. And your city and town as usual.
Sorry, I just kicked somebody on the way up here. Raymond Paquette. I live on Black Birch Trail, and I teach at Northampton High School. I'm hearing, I recognize that we're concerned about money, we're concerned about the budget, and how we spend our money. That's important. But I'm not going to really get into a lot of the details there. I think it's easy to kind of get into those details and get lost. For me, and again, same thing with hiring mid-year versus not. People can think about that. That's great. I appreciate those of you that do that. I'm not doing that. I just want to think about we're operating in crisis mode, it feels like. So we're trying to put out fires at the various schools. We're trying to make sure we're in legal compliance with special ed needs. Stuff's all important. That all speaks to the minimum. I think we need to be talking about what do we want our schools to be? What kinds of classes do we want to offer? What kinds of classes can we not offer right now? Little side trip. I started looking at the Department of Education, the DESE data. I looked at 20 schools around this area, 20 high schools around this area. I could not find a high school with a higher student to staff ratio than Northampton High School. Could not. I went a little bit further. I went and looked in Fall River because I thought, okay, a town that doesn't have a lot of resources. Nope. No, they have a way better staff to student ratio than we do. So of the group that I looked at right around here, we're about 15% higher than any of the other ones around. So that's 15% more students per staff by the state's numbers. So that's bad. The next nearest ones were like Holyoke, Belchertown, Chicopee, and those were all at least somewhere between 1 and 2 staff members per student fewer. Sorry, the other way around. Students per staff member than we are in Northampton. We're way out of line. I'm done.
Time.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to Zoom, and it's President Jarrett. Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Alex Jarrett, Ward 5 City Councilor. So I see many significant concerns with our schools at the level of funding they have now, and I believe that additional school funding will be well used. However, it must be in line with our fiscal stability plan and financial policies, or we won't be able to sustain it. So I asked the committee to look closely at 2 things. First, what amount can be sustainably rolled into the budget for future years? So my analysis, which is based on the spreadsheet that's linked to on the agenda, is that $50,000 now for the remainder of the year and $200,000, plus the benefits cost, rolled into the base for future years is doable, but tight for the fiscal stability I would like us to recommend to the mayor to roll these funds in so that it's clear to administrators what is intended as permanent. And the second is how much in one-time non-recurring funds, clearly defined as such, are reasonable for us to allocate. From talking to teachers and as discussed tonight, I understand that math and reading interventionists and tutors would make a big difference in bringing students who are currently behind up to grade level or out of the zone where they will need an IEP. And this short-term funding could go a long way to reduce future costs and benefit students. So this is one example, and I don't think it's our role as a city council to determine exactly how funds should be used. I would suggest that these one-time funds come from the undesignated fund rather than the fiscal stability fund. And this is appropriate because it is short-term with a defined purpose, and there is no obligation for future funding. So add these two together, and we have a responsible recommendation back to the full council. However, the amounts should be in consultation with the finance director and the mayor, because we have costs coming like snow and ice overages and many unknowns like federal funding concerns. So that's the question for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, and so in the room we have Lauren Brown.
My name is Lauren Brown. I am the principal at Jackson Street. I am here to compel you to support the mid-year appropriation of $600,000 for our schools. While this situation is not without complication, my message is simple. Listen to educators, believe us, and act accordingly when we tell you what we need in order to provide a free and appropriate education for all of our students. It has always been the case that public schools need more money. What's happening at the federal level is alarming, but it isn't surprising. Public school educators share a long history of being disrespected and devalued. That disrespect and devaluation is partially rooted in the fact that even today, according to the Pew Research Center, 77% of educators identify as women. The underfunding of public schools is a long-standing problem based on disregard for the work, disrespect for children, and a misogynist dismissal of those of us who teach them. What my team at Jackson Street needs and deserves is a well-paid 8-hour workday, if NACE is amenable, so that after students leave, they are on paid time when they are doing the extraordinary amount of work outside of teaching that it takes to make that teaching happen. What we need is a well-paid classroom paraeducator in every room who can support the complex work of keeping a classroom running smoothly. What we need is money for teachers and administrators to receive meaningful professional development. When you look at this broader context, an extra $600,000 is a drop in the bucket. I implore you to support this mid-year appropriation as a means of literally putting your money where your mouth is, which is to say, as a way of standing up against the long-standing history of disrespect for public schools as evidenced by budgets that do not reflect the brilliant, intense, complex, generative, powerful, intellectual, loving, personal, gut-wrenching, world-changing, life-saving work our teachers do every day. Support the appropriation and fund our schools properly in the future. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.
Thank you. And on Zoom, we have Laura Mangione. Oh, I'm sorry, not on Zoom.
It's okay, it's a tricky one.
Yeah.
My name is Laura Mangonis. I'm going to talk fast to get it in. I live in East Hampton. I'm a kindergarten teacher at Bridge Street where I've taught for 10 years. I'm here tonight to advocate on behalf of the students in our kindergarten program, both in my class and Karen Kent's. I'm here to ask that you restore the second reading interventionist at Bridge Street School so that kindergarten students can access the academic support needed to learn to read. When literacy positions at Bridge Street were reduced from 2 to 1 during the the last budget process. This resulted in kindergarten students losing access to reading support in the fall that had previously been provided. It also meant that 2 months ago, when we met to look at the most recent assessment data, 7 of my students were identified as eligible for intervention because they were scoring well below grade level. They started the year this way, but only 1 of my students was able to be picked up. Dr. Bonner just said that the focus has been on K through 2. 1 of my students was picked up and he receives 5 minutes of intervention each day. She doesn't know. I'm here to advocate for reading support for Bridge Street kindergartners. As documented in previous school committee meetings, Bridge Street serves a student population that is 50% high needs, as designated by DESE, the highest of the elementary schools in our district. We have 4 elementary schools, each has 2 kindergarten classrooms. What you may not know is that Bridge Street Kindergarten is the only program that does not have access to a grade level special education teacher because our caseloads are so large. I shared mine with the intensive needs teacher, and he just left for another district. You ask me why outside of my 2 minutes time. This means, though, across at the city, at every single school, at Jackson Street, Ryan Road, Leeds, they all have dedicated grade level teachers, and every child in those kindergarten classroom goes through a rotation of targeted instruction. We can't provide that at Bridge Street. There's only 1 school in Northampton that doesn't offer this frequency of instruction. It's Bridge Street School. What does it mean if a kindergartner's access to education in Northampton is determined by their street address and their neighborhood?
On Zoom, Mikhail Bronco. Let me unmute you.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one consideration and one question.
Can I?
Consideration, can you hear me?
Yeah. Could you just state your city or town? You can start.
Oh yeah, I live in Northampton, Ward 1.
Thank you.
I have two kids going to Jackson Street. So I have a consideration and a question. So the consideration is that I tend to agree, unfortunately, with superintendent assessment that now it would become more challenging to fill the positions at this point in the year. But that's exactly part of the reason why a large part of the community fought to avoid the cuts that went into effect in the last budget. Because we knew it was going to be more difficult and more costly to rectify such a poor decision. Right? So here comes a question. I look at the numbers presented by superintendent and the school committee. So the school committee proposed basically on average $241 per student, right, across the district. I see that from the survey, the only 2 schools that came anywhere close to the 241 are Bridge Street and Jackson Street at $236 and $230 per student. All the other ones came significantly lower. Leeds at 195, Ryan Road at 128, and then Jackson, JFK, sorry, and Northampton High School, the middle school came at $78 instead of $241, and high school came at $48 per student instead of $241. So I'm wondering why such a discrepancy between what the school committee pushed and what the need from the schools came. It feels to me that there's no, either the survey was quickly.
So that's time, Mikhail. I think we have your question, and we will answer it back. Thank you for your question. Okay. Let's see. So back in the room, we have Pamela Rosen, and if you could just state your city. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Pamela Rosen. I live in Northampton, and I have 2 children, one who is in 2nd grade at Jackson Street School, and another one who receives services through the itinerant preschool program. you asked for questions, and my question is, why wouldn't we try? I have seen this year, as our first year at Jackson Street School, the incredible work under such difficult circumstances that the teachers and the leadership of the school have done to make this year an incredible year for our second grade students in particular, who have 26 children in each one of those classrooms. That puts us in the bottom 1% of Massachusetts state classrooms for second grade. So I've seen what they've done and how much they've accomplished under such difficult circumstances. Why wouldn't we give them a chance to fill these positions and make it right? Our kids and our teachers are suffering because of a problem that the adults, that the government, that somebody, not our kids and not our teachers, created. So why wouldn't we be protecting them and trying to do the best for them and solving these problems by looking in other places and giving our schools a chance to try to fill these positions, to make it right, to do right by our kids? Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, we have Maritha Wallace. Good evening. Did I unmute you? Oh, okay. Good evening.
Hi, I don't know, can you hear me?
Yep. We can hear you well.
Okay, so first, I'm at choir practice, so you'll have to hear some good music, it's because of that. But here's something that I am a JFK paraprofessional and have been so for 10 years. And one of the things that I just wanted to make really clear is I was a mid-year hire, and I have been here for 10 years. There have others of us who have been here longer than I have as mid-year hires. So when we go there and we get our foot in the door, we make changes for the school. And that is something that I think you are forgetting, is that when we walk in, doesn't matter what part of the year it is, if we know our job and we are educated to do our job, then we're going to do it well. The other thing I'm asking is that you do the whole $600,000, because it's so important that our kids start gaining instead of losing. And finally, I want to thank every teacher, every para, every clerical staff, every custodial staff, because we're why these schools are still standing. We are why, because we put our students and each other before ourselves. That's collaboration. That is what we do every single day when we walk into our buildings. And the fact that we are not acknowledged for that, and we are told that we need to do more collaborating. Collaborating looks for me like when our tier support person is like, I haven't been to the bathroom all day. Marisa, can you come? Absolutely. I'm collaborating with that person there so they can get what they need and I can help out. We do it every single day. There was a car crash on 91 and 10 of our teachers couldn't make it in the building. Do you know not one of those classrooms was not unstaffed? There was a para, there was somebody in there.
Thank you, Maritha.
Okay, this is my last sentence. That's what we do on a daily basis. Please help us out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Agito. I live in Northampton, and I am the president of the Northampton Association of School Employees. I'm also a kindergarten teacher at Ryan Road School. I want to start by saying that I'm dismayed that our superintendent is only asking for half of the mid-year appropriation that she was directed to ask for by an 8-2 vote of the school committee. One of those two that voted no was the mayor. That means 8 out of 9 school committee members voted that we needed $600,000. Educators, parents, caregivers, students have been speaking for months and months about the crisis going on in our schools. This mid-year appropriation would help to alleviate that. And I understand the concern for not being able to roll in the money. We've been hearing this over and over again. However, what we need now is to take care of our children. And whatever we can do, I appreciated Counselor Jarrett's ability to start to make a plan for that. But I don't think you should be listening to the amount that the superintendent is asking for. I want to give you two comments, one to Counselor Moulton's concern about mid-year hires. We have many mid-year hires. You just heard from one speaking. We have some in the room. Many mid-year hires who have been in the district for years and years and years and are incredible educators, both paraprofessionals, educators alike. In 2018, the district cut 23 para positions with the WINS model. Not one para was laid off that year, and one of the reasons is because para educators tends to be, can sometimes be a stepping stone position. So we often have a lot of turnover from year to year. Even if we took that, I'll finish this thought, even if we took that $600,000 and hired just paraprofessionals, in addition to the second grade teacher at Jackson Street, the special ed teacher at Ryan Road, and the reading and math interventionist at Bridge Street. Those are just 4 educators, right? And if we took just those 4 educators and made up the difference with para educators, I bet we wouldn't have to lay off any of them because the turnover would be enough to fill that $600,000, which is what we really need. Our superintendent is not advocating for what we need, and we have many new principals that didn't really know what to ask for in the face of their superintendent. We heard from one who knew what to ask for. She is our most senior. Okay. So listen to her. Thank you.
Thank you. On Zoom, we have Lisa Modenos. Good evening, Lisa. There you are.
Hi.
Hi.
Lisa Modenos, Florence. There is a quote that says, allowing a student with a hidden disability to struggle when all that's needed for success are appropriate accommodations is no different than failing to provide a ramp for a person in a wheelchair. I know that no one on the Finance Committee would ever deny a ramp to a child in a wheelchair, even a temporary ramp. So why do you insist on continuing to deny supports for developmentally disabled children like mine? My son is disabled, attends JFK. He struggled all year due to understaffing. His IEP has been violated. I filed a complaint with DESE. I'm one of many families whose children have struggled this year due to budget cuts and understaffing in our schools, particularly children with IEPs. The city has the funds to support my child and other children like him. Please do not deny him his ramp for the remainder of this school year. 10 weeks, 5 weeks, even 1 week with a ramp is better than no ramp. This is true for my beautiful son and other children like him in the district. They cannot wait for the state. They cannot wait for next year. Their brains and bodies do not have the privilege of time. The city has the funds. It is a choice you're making to either hoard them for some future potential use or provide ramps for children who need them now. So in this month of March, which happens to be Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month, I ask the Finance Committee to please choose disabled children over savings. Please choose disabled children and their civil rights over savings. Please choose children over savings. And also, listen to educators. And my question to Dr. Bonner is two-part. In the final list you provided, did that include all the requests from the principals? So in other words, did principals ask for additional supports that you did not approve? And if so, why did you not approve them? Thank you.
Thank you. In the room, we have Kate Fontaine.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kate Fontaine. I am a history and social studies teacher and department chair at Northampton High School. I'm also the Unit A coordinator for the Northampton Association of School Employees. So I want to start with a couple of quick statements about this idea that we somehow can't find qualified people mid-year. That's absolutely, utterly ridiculous. One of the finest paraeducators I know who is sitting right over here behind me, was a mid-year hire. One of the other fabulous kindergarten teachers in the room was also a mid-year hire. There is an open position at Bridge Street School, and it's my understanding that at the faculty meeting this week, the principal was gleefully exclaiming that she found a Grinspoon winner to take that position. At the high school where I am, we just hired a new Spanish teacher that started 2 weeks ago. She's a native speaker, she's an NHS graduate, and she's awesome. So that's utterly ridiculous because people's lives change. People's lives change. People do not live on a September to June calendar in the real world. So I also have a couple of questions. I would like to know if there was a process of collaboration that existed amongst the building principals. As Andrea Gito pointed out, we have a lot of new principals. And so did the principals sit together and try to figure out how to best use that $600,000? Or were they asked in isolation? In addition, I would like to know if Dr. Bonner collaborated with the mayor to produce a reduced amount. The school committee tasked the superintendent with coming up with $600,000 worth of improvements. We know interventions can be 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I would like to know why there's not more interventionists included to make up that other $300,000. We know the children need it. We've been hearing about it for months. Every single teacher in the district will tell you they need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Okay. On Zoom, we have, it just says DHIN. Good evening. If you could stay. Hey.
Hi, good night, good evening to everybody. My name's Jennifer James. I'm a resident of Northampton. I live in Ward 2. I have 3 questions and then I have 1 statement. My first question is, I would really like to know which one of the counselors on the budget committee has ever run a classroom, hired a teacher, monitored a recess, or taught anyone how to read. My second question is, why aren't our talented principals trusted to make good staffing decisions mid-year? My third question is, why is our city dismantling its public schools?
Yeah.
And my statement is, I would like to thank all of the teachers who every day work their hardest for my son at the high school. I'm not going to name them, but I want to thank them. I would like you to know that despite their best work, my son's IEP has been violated this year, even though my teachers have worked their hardest. And I think that you have the power to stop this and you should use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
So we have a few more on Zoom, but if you arrive late, just what we can do is you can just raise your hand and come up, and then we'll go back and get it. So good evening.
Good evening. I'm Paula Regano, and I live in Northampton, and I'm a paraeducator at Northampton High School. I'm going to say 2 things real quick and tell a quick story. I thank you, Stan, for your newsletter. I appreciate it every time it comes out. That $40,000 appropriation was in response to a health and safety grievance that was filed on behalf of teachers and paraeducators that are getting the crap kicked out of them every day at one of our elementary schools. That needs to be made clear. There was a reason that appropriation was made when it was made. The other thing I want to say, I am a mid-year hire, and one of the best paraeducators I know is also in this room, and she was a mid-year hire. So I want to just debunk that right now. And I want to tell a quick story. When my daughter was in the 1st grade at Jackson Street School, Miss Agna was her principal, and my daughter received reading intervention from Mr. McDonald. Remember Mr. McDonald? Mr. McDonald's job was cut when at the end of my daughter's 1st grade year. She had 1 year of reading intervention, and her services just ceased. I went to her teachers every year, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and I said, something's not right with my daughter. I'm telling you, something's not right. They would tell me not to worry about it. She does so well. In 7th grade, I again went to a teacher and I said, I think something's not right. And the teacher said to me, and I will never forget this, she gets all A's, what are you worried about? And I said, she gets all A's in the 7th grade and she spells girl, G-R-I-L. Something's not right. I continued to question it. I was in the system. I didn't know how to address it or get her what she needed. She was in the 11th grade when she was diagnosed with a reading disability. The 11th grade. She fought her hardest and worked her hardest and found ways to succeed in spite of her reading disabilities. But you know who wouldn't have missed that reading disability? Mr. McDonald in 1st grade. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula.
Yeah, camp resident?
Yeah, hi. My name is Charles Tinkley. I'm a resident in Northampton. And I just have a quick question. It seems like the high school offers very few classes compared to what I would expect. There's very little in the way of language stuff. The math wears out. There's insufficient special ed for the kids who have IEPs. The IEPs are routinely violated, from what I understand from this meeting. Why is it not possible to simply deliver the full appropriation of $600,000 to the distribution by the principals of the schools as they see fit? There's clearly money that's needed in Northampton Public Schools. We're trying to make this too cheap. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll take your time.
Hi, I'm Meg Robbins, Ward 4, Northampton. And I'm going to speak to Dr. Bonner saying that she was concerned about coming and using money now because she would need to come back for the budget later, and she didn't want to spoil that. It came across as it would feel like it was greedy to ask for money in the budget or ask for money now. And she had no assurance that the money she would get now would be rolled into the money that would be awarded to her in the budget. And that is the discrepancy that I think is really in front of us. You counselors and school committee members received some projections on the budget from the Support Our Schools group about alternative ways to be able to afford to fund the schools without robbing the city, without losing essential services, without depleting our stabilization funds. And I hope you've had some time to look at it and to think about it, and we would be more than glad to have some discussions with you about it. But the bottom line is, it's there because we've done the work to really think about how we can do this, how we don't have to have a superintendent who is worried about having to come back and beg for the money to do the work she knows needs to be done in our schools. Thanks.
Thanks, Meg. Let's see.
So then
On Zoom, we have Karen Shepley. Good evening, Karen. Is there? Nope. Yeah, take your time.
Start the video.
Yep.
Okay, hi.
Hi.
Hi, my name is Karen Shapley. I am from East Hampton. I am the reading interventionist on Bridge Street. This past October, I went from working 80% to 100. Now most of the students at Bridge Street receive 5 days of reading intervention like all the other elementary schools. However, it still is not enough. My first and second grade students are seeing 5 days a week, yet I only have one time slot available to work with third graders. As a result, I see some third grade students 2 times a week and others 3 times a week during the same time slot. I cannot make a significant difference in their reading with the limited time I'm seeing them. Every September and January, we do benchmark assessments to ensure students are on grade level. And if not, during the data review meeting for each grade, we determine students who need additional reading support. It has been determined that there are an additional 19 third, fourth, and fifth grade students who are not being serviced because I do not have the time to see them. Those 19 could be your grandson, your niece, or your neighbor, and they are not getting the help they need to become proficient readers. In addition, I have one slot available for kindergarten students, as Laura Mangan has talked about. As a result, I rotate through students and I provide short periods of instruction. However, there are 14 kindergartnens who are not at grade level and need more intensive, explicit instruction. Intervention is best provided early, and I am not able to provide the needed instruction to these children. Classroom teachers are frustrated that many of their students are not receiving the extra help that they need, and they are also overwhelmed that it falls on them. Every year in the 11 years that I've worked at Bridge Street, except for this year, there have been 2 reading interventionists, making it equivalent of full-time interventionists. This allowed us to pick up more students, although the students were not seen for 5 days. Even with the 2 reading interventionists in the past, we still couldn't meet the students' need. Bridge Street has the highest population of multilingual and low socioeconomic elementary students in the district. In the past, money has been distributed equally among the schools. However, this is not equitable. We are the most needy elementary school, and we do not have the staff available to meet this greater need. It is my hope that you will allocate the $600,000 to fund interventionists or tutors, as well as other needed positions.
Thank you. I apologize, I'm getting over a respiratory thing. Okay, so in the room, is there anyone, before we go back to Zoom? I'll check back. So on Zoom, I see Gaurav, just Nani, let's see. Good evening, Gaurav. Is she there?
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
Gaurav Jashnani, Ward 6, Northampton. I moved to Northampton in August. I was excited to move here. I was told that the schools were really good. The teachers are great. The paras are great. The administration and the district are a wreck. The kids are at Bridge Street. I've alternately been lied to, misled, and dismissed as a parent of 2 children there. My son is 8. He has an IEP. He deserves a good future, just like all children. That's much harder when he gets 5 different paras in 8 days, or gets someone quote unquote permanent who's removed without an explanation or a word after 1 week, or just doesn't have anyone for half the day, 3 days of the week for months. Most recently, I'm being told a para is with him on some days when there's no one there most of the day. I'm in the middle of a DESI complaint like many parents. These IEP violations are expensive, I realized my video is off, are expensive lawsuits waiting to happen. I don't blame the administrators for the most part. This is structural. When institutions are gutted, people turn on each other. Though I think it is despicable for the mayor and the appointed head of the school district to try to lower how much money is being allocated by the school committee to schools that have been gutted. As our only Title I school, Bridge Street is hit the hardest, as so many people have said tonight. At all schools, a lack of funding hurts some students much more than others in completely predictable ways. The current set of funding choices is exactly what Northampton claims to be against: institutional racism, ableism, and violence against children. These choices of violence that the city is making, you all can start to undo at this exact moment tonight and tomorrow. Please vote for this allocation to save what is an imploding school system and undo the harm the city is causing to my children, other children, teachers, and families.
Thank you, guys.
Scan the room, back to Zoom. Oh,
I can wait, I'll wait.
no, that's okay. I was gonna go, I'll alternate anyway. So
Sure.
if you wanna- Steve?
Welcome, Counselor Rothenberg.
Thank you. So my question for Dr. Bonner is how exactly she worded the request to her alt team, and if we can see that in writing. My comments to the Finance Committee are that I've already had a chance to review the spreadsheets that were sent to us by Ward 3 constituent Tyler Barnett. It's clear to me that even if you maintain the mayor's framework of her fiscal stability plan and you maintain their conservative estimates, he's made 2 moderate tweaks. 2 of them fall in this year. 2 categories are changed in one way this year. And the other category involves changes that are in years 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm happy to help anyone go through that, and I'm sure Tyler is as well. But the reason I bring that up is because it's very plain to me
that without radical change and that with staying inside of your framework, you actually don't have any problem with the full appropriation, the $600,000, which I want to remind you is what is before you, right? But if you want to take it that step further and look at rolling it in, there is no problem, and that's been proven in the spreadsheet. So we won't be able to hide behind a sense of, you know, we can only go this far, we can't go all the way. It's very clear that we can go all the way, and I'm going to be working very hard to make sure that the public understands that as well. So I really hope that you take that time to go through that. And I just want to say to the public, why are you the ones that have to bring all of this to us? Why isn't our superintendent the one telling us that we have problems with people getting hurt, with IEPs not being met, with our staff being burnt out? Why is the public the one having to look and be more creative with your budget? Why is it not the mayor telling her finance director to be more creative? This leadership gap is killing us.
Thank you. All right. So on Zoom, we have Counselor Clemmer. Let me unmute you. Good evening, Counselor Clemmer. Did I, oh, did I just, wait. Did I unmute? Okay, good. So faint.
I'm also getting upper respiratory thing. So I have a couple of questions, and one concerns the unemployment and health insurance. That I just want to clarify that this would have to be paid till the end of August, and for these hires, and the city pays the health insurance, and the school will pay unemployment insurance. My question is, was that amount rolled into the salaries that are listed on that chart, or is this additional beyond the, about $300,000 that's requested? My second question refers to the chart that Tyler Bennett sent around. Meg and Dr. Walker brought it up. I don't know if American Guardy is there, but my question is, what are your concerns about the amount of overrides needed to support this increase? How often and how much? If this money, the $600,000 is rolled into the budget. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Anyone in the room? Okay, I'll go to Deb Willis on Zoom. Good evening.
Good evening. Deb Willis, Holyoke, Mass. I'm a special education teacher for Northampton for 20 plus years. I wanted to speak tonight about updating our iReady benchmark testing for grades 4 and 5 at Bridge Street School. I had spoken previously about our fall benchmarking, and I was concerned about the lack of services our general education students were receiving. There were 65 students tested, students that were 2 or 3 years below grade level. There were 11 general education students who were below grade level receiving no services. There were 2 general education students who were 3 years below grade level receiving no services. There were 12 students in general education who were 1 year below grade level. That says that there are 23 students currently in grades 4 and 5 who are reading at grade level out of 65. We need those interventionists. Those children deserve those interventionists to read and be independent learners. Thank you.
Thank you. In the room? Kathy McNally. Good evening.
Good evening, Kathy McNally, Leeson Road, Northampton. There was an op-ed in the paper this week by a guy, Kevin Lake, and it was quite funny, and it was about how Support Our Schools does nothing but, he sort of made us sound like toddlers. We give misinformation, disinformation, we don't know anything. It's like we're a bunch of drunk babies. So, and we all kind of thought that was funny. It made us mad, and it's like, okay, do your best. But you guys have seen what Tyler Barnett did tonight, and I want to tell Kevin Lake, you know, Kevin, I wish we were like that, because that sounds kind of fun, being a little bit drunk and being able to, like, do anything you want. But we're not like that. We work like hell. I don't know, these people have jobs, the people in Support Our Schools, and they have kids, and they manage to work all the time. We are meeting constantly. We're researching, and I just am really proud of that, and I'm really proud what Tyler did. We've been trying to get alternative budgets for months. We talked to economists. We talked to every economist professor we know, and Tyler worked with Alex, and that worked out great, and Alex helped him understand the modeling, and he did it, and he produced something really interesting, and I'm really glad about that. The other thing I want to say is that there was a comment made talking about the budget, that the budget we did now would impact the budget for years to come. But what we didn't talk about is the other entity that will be impacted for years to come by the budget that we make. And that's the kids in the school. And they have come up very little. It's always the impact of the students, and if they have their needs met, what's that going to do to the budget and our surplus? We hardly ever say, except on this side of the room and some of you, what's the impact of the budget on kids? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on Zoom, Carrie Foley, good evening. Can you unmute? Maybe I didn't unmute you. There.
I think can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Carrie Foley. I live in Florence, Ward 5. I'm a special education teacher at Bridge Street, and I wanted just to build a little bit on what my two colleagues shared. We talk a lot about reading, but we also haven't been talking about math. And in grades 4 and 5, the lack of interventionists and what some short-term help, the difference that could make, could be significant for students who are currently receiving no help. Our winter benchmarking assessments, in grades 4 and 5, there are 6 students that are 2 years behind grade level. These are general education students, not special education, who are not receiving any support. So they are 4th and 5th graders learning at 2nd and 3rd grade levels, at least 6 of them who get nothing. In 5th grade, there's another 6 students, so that's 12 students in grades 4 and 5 that are 2 years behind in math or more. Some are 3 years behind. There are an additional 13 students in grade 4 and 12 students in grade 5 who have been marked in the yellow and are falling at least 1 year behind. So the amount of difference that it could make for us to even have 2 months of an interventionist to support our upper grade students who currently get nothing in math is critical. And we ask for your support for Bridge Street because upper grades are going to middle school, as you know, and we have students who are still adding on their fingers and who still can't break down a 2-step word problem, and they need help, and that type of intervention could make a significant difference. Thank you.
Thank you. So there's no more hands on Zoom, but I'm going to check in the room, and then we're going to wind up, something like that. Al Simon.
Thank you. Good evening. Al Simon, Ward 2. I was sitting at home watching this, and when I heard the testimony, I felt the need to come down and be in this room. A year ago, I was retired, man. I had served my community someplace else for a long time, starting around the issue of public education. And I'm actually astounded by what's going on in this city, a city that is flush with cash, but has a leadership that is blinded by this dogma of an old plan. That's what, 10 years old now? Older, more than 10 years old? And an absolute refusal to consider any modification despite the fact that circumstances have changed. The needs of the children have increased. Public education is being slowly destroyed. It's a death of 1,000 cuts. It's impacting children. You all know that. You all hear this. You have to be touched by what you hear going on. And yet there's no action because you're worried about this number and that number. It's been clear to me for a long time following this issue that the city has bitten off way more than it can chew financially. And it's been focused on things instead of people. And you've lost focus of the basics of local government. That, what you call the fiscal stability plan, which is actually a capital spending plan in reality, because that's where the money goes, has to be changed. And you have to prioritize people instead of things. That's the only way you will solve this problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to pivot and how are committee members doing? Okay.
We're going to need a recess
Right.
to.
No.
Yes. Well, if we're going to move into. Next on the agenda is actually you want to recognize the sponsors. So after that, we'll take a recess.
To then compile the questions and okay. Let me just see if on the agenda was the recognition of the sponsor of the original order from school committee. Let me just see if they are. Oh, yep, I see Mike. So as the chair, I'm going to recognize the sponsor, Mike Stein. Let's see. Okay. Oh, I didn't unmute you. Hold on just a sec, Mike. Why is it not unmuting? One second. Let me try it a different way. Huh. Okay. Ah! Why is that not unmuting? Oh, oh, good. Excellent. Excuse me. Good evening, Member Stein. Thank you for being here. And we would. I was just going to recognize you in case you wanted to add anything as the sponsor. I'm giving the ballpark of like 5 minutes. But whatever you feel you want to add about the order in front of us.
Thank you so much for allowing me to speak and for inviting me to do so on the agenda. I appreciate it immensely and appreciate the way you've been conducting the hearing. I have some prepared remarks, but just before I get into them, I want to stress and emphasize what others have said regarding this concern about mid-year applicants. I find it very disrespectful to our staff and dismissive of our staff, many of whom are mid-year hires and excellent. And if I think the district really believed that, they would have a hiring freeze all the time, but we don't. We're hiring people all the time. So at some level, we must not really actually believe that. I also just cannot imagine anyone, if this was the police department here, coming in front of you with a crisis and needing more staffing, you say, well, you're hiring outside of the academy graduation season. You won't get any good officers. I can't imagine any of you saying that. But when it comes to educators who are largely a female workforce, this is what we hear. It does not go unnoticed. So, as Councilor Mary mentioned, I did make this motion. And while I don't speak for all members of the body, I can say that as the member who brought the motion to request the $600,000, that my intent was clear. It was to address the immediate needs of children and staff in the district and address the literacy crisis at JFK and NHS. From the deliberation around the motion, it was assumed that the superintendent would leverage the already existing budget process, which has included identifying areas of pressing need where additional staff are required. We were led to believe that this list was well-formed and with simple confirmation from principals, it would be provided. What has transpired instead has been quite perplexing and confusing. And since the superintendent reports to the school committee, I expect the body to address the issues surrounding her execution of our directive with Dr. Bonner directly. On Monday, as part of our agenda, the Budget and Property Subcommittee will discuss the list that the superintendent provided and the process by which it was created. I welcome you all to tune in from 5 to 7 p.m. My colleagues and I have heard chilling testimony all year and public comment about the impacts of the cuts resulting from the mayor's FY25 budget. From rationing of services to IEP violations to health and safety concerns to the social and emotional health of our students and staff to overcrowded and understaffed classrooms. The picture is one of crisis, and I'm here asking you tonight to recommend funding the school committee's request of $600,000, which passed the body by a vote of 8-2. If you recommend our request and the city council appropriates the funds, I assure you that it will benefit our students and staff, particularly the most marginalized and vulnerable. Please give them a chance to end the year in a better situation than they have been experiencing. It is what they deserve, and it's in your power to do so. I've heard two main objections to appropriating this money. The first is that somehow it would just be inconvenient or disruptive, and as a result should not be done. The reality is that the current situation is in many ways a permanent state of disruption. Improving it is worth it. I recently learned from a school newsletter that one of the things this funding will enable is the addition of another second grade class to address the overcrowding and better meet student needs. If teachers and administrators feel that the disruption of adding another class and dividing 2 into 3 is beneficial, we should believe them. It will make a big difference for those students, even if it disrupts the current situation. I'd also argue that the similarly enrolled classes at Bridge Street should also get a second educator, a third, and be split up so they can benefit in similar ways to what's being proposed at Jackson Street. Earlier this week, we had quite an informative presentation to the Curriculum and Climate of Learning Subcommittee by district staff. They gave a wonderful overview of what's called the science of reading, and talked about the district's challenges in terms of its students' ability to access literacy at appropriate levels, and talked about the real need for interventionists at all levels, including JFK and NHS, which have very little resources. And the $600,000 could help us to address that and begin to address it. The second objection I hear is that if we hire additional staff, we will either have to keep them next year and pay them, or lay them off, and that would somehow be unkind. Regarding the former, yes, the schools are in a crisis and they need more resources. You should work to figure out how to meet the needs of the schools, the students, and not the needs of one financial model of budgeting. Regarding the latter, laying off 22 educators last June didn't elicit this level of moral or ethical panic. What I think is actually behind these concerns is the larger questions about the MPS budget. On the one hand, we hear about catastrophic projections for the city's finances if we staff our student needs. On the other, we are told that there are many ways to construct a budget and that catastrophe is not simply around the corner. I was grateful that Councilor Jarrett made the city's financial modeling spreadsheet available. For the first time, it laid bare the various assumptions underlying the city's projections and budgeting. You all received a version of this spreadsheet with accompanying documents from Tyler Barnett, who demonstrated that you can, in fact, build in additional operating budgeting for the schools and not trigger a catastrophizing debt for the remainder of this year and beyond. You can, in fact, absorb the ongoing cost of the $600,000 mid-year appropriation and continue to fund them. This is but one version of the budget of which many other possibilities exist. It is clear proof that the binary of either meet the school's needs or go bankrupt is a false binary. If the mayor remains unwilling, I hope this is the work the Finance Committee could do. And if council opted in as a body, you could actually help to produce a budget the community is asking for. In closing, I'd just like to reiterate the invitation that you're going to discuss later. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Member Stein. And could you just hold on 1 minute to see, because if committee members have any questions for the sponsor? I feel like I had, I can't think of them. But let me look. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Member Stein, for that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, now
we're going to take, okay. We're going to take a 10-minute recess so we can compile these questions, and then we'll come back and we'll put them to the superintendent and or whoever is the relevant person. Thank you. And we're back. Welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. We're moving along our agenda. Now we are going to take the questions we've compiled from the public comment question period and ask them to, we have Director Nardi here from the city and also Superintendent Bonner. I believe we saw Superintendent Bonner, so let me just get her on camera and then we can start with the questions. Superintendent?
Yes.
Oh, great. Good. Thank you. So Councilor Moulton.
Thank you. So, Superintendent Bonner, I'm going to start with, there were a number of questions asked about the process that you used to come up with the list of recommended spending that totals the nearly $295,000. Does that list include all of the requests that were made by principals?
Yes, it does.
Okay. Was there a collaboration among the principals in advising you on the request? And I think the question is were the principals meeting together to discuss their requests, or were they asked in isolation?
So first of all, they were asked, well, they received the copy of the memo that I originally sent with the allocations for each building. And then we discussed it at our alt meeting in terms of start thinking about the requests. And I followed up with an email saying that this was right after the finance meeting the city council meeting on the past city council meeting. I don't have the date in front of me. And so I said that we have a quick turnaround time, that I need a finite list in terms of how you want to expend your allocation for your building. And so each principal responded via email, and I compiled the list, and on this past Monday, I showed them the list from each school, and we went through it and talked about it. And you will note that there were a couple of additions that we made in terms of JFK from the original email that was written.
Okay, thanks. There was a specific question about how you worded the request to principals.
Mm-hmm. So the request was, well, I worded it by saying you have an allocation. Tell me what you are prioritizing to expend your allocation. So that is by verbal word of mouth. So it was followed up with an email. Let me just pull up the email. Dear principals and directors, this was February 20th. The City Council referred the mid-year appropriation to Finance Committee. Meanwhile, we must come up with a finite list. Please think outside of the box. Enjoy the remainder of your vacation. This will be discussed at the alt meeting on Tuesday. That is the email for them. They were given a timeline of when to submit their requests so that I can compile the list. I included everything that they requested, so we want to make sure that that misinformation is not out there. And that we reviewed the list on Monday, this past Monday, before I sent it out to City Council and School Committee.
Okay, thank you. There was a question that asked whether you collaborated with the mayor on deciding to recommend less than the $600,000 requested by the school committee.
No, I did not. This was done by the principals, and I recorded their recommendations, and then I told them that.
There were a couple of questions asked about the balance of the $600,000 request, $305,000 or so. Why not allow the principals to determine how to best use that money? And I think specifically there was a suggestion that suggesting that more money for interventionists would be useful for the remainder of the year.
Well, that's not what was suggested by my principals. They gave me their requests. I will tell you that instead of interventionists, the high school needs actual content teachers. So just to, I mean, if you all would like for me to go back to the principals and say, okay, those of you who did not complete your allocation, what additional things can you use? I'll be glad to do that if you want to make this whole.
Okay. There was a question that related to the original memo that accompanied the financial order for the $600,000, in which you suggested that the allocation would be made on a per pupil basis of about $241 per pupil, and why there is the deviation from that in this list that came to us this week. And the questioner noted that only 2 schools, Bridge Street and Jackson Street, approached that 241 per pupil figure.
So again, I respond that this is what the principals gave me as their priority. So apparently, the principals feel that there is no additional needs at this time. They have requests. They have requests for next year, not for the ending of this year.
Okay. There was a kind of a bigger picture question that was a suggestion that the community needs to be thinking about our vision for the schools. What do we want the schools to be? What classes do we want to teach? And I wondered if that was, you mentioned that you're looking at 3 budget scenarios, and I believe the third one is what you call the strong budget, whether that kind of visioning planning might go into that strong budget.
Yes, it is in that budget. There are many requests for additional content teachers at the high school, the same with JFK, so that they can actually have an additional team to offload some of the high numbers of students in some of the classrooms.
Okay. And then I think the other questions I'll direct to Finance Director Nardi. One of them is about benefits and any potential unemployment costs. I believe the superintendent said that benefits were not part of this $295,000. What the cost of the additional benefits, has that been calculated?
So in the spreadsheet that was sent out, it was calculated in there. We included that amount. The spreadsheet that Council President Jarrett put out there had an amount in the health insurance amount. We used a 21.7% figure for benefits. That's the amount that we, for indirects, so we put it in that line. I did, actually, when I looked at it, I dropped the first tab, had an amount of $103,000, and I think when you actually, based on the 295, it should be like $64,000 at 21.7%. So I dropped that. I made those changes in the spreadsheet when I looked at it today.
And that is reflected then in the spreadsheet that's currently attached to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
Yes, if that's Tyler Barnett's, yes.
Okay. And then the other question is, it's about any concerns or anything you want to say about the potential overrides, and that was specifically in response to Tyler Barnett's alternate fiscal stability scenarios. I do want to point out that Director Nardi did send an email at 6 p.m. In response to Tyler Barnett's spreadsheet. I have not had a chance to review that, but is there anything you want to say right now about the Tyler Barnett spreadsheet and specifically about the need for overrides?
So first, I just want to correct, so the spreadsheet that's on your agenda does not have my changes for the health insurance, the reductions. I downloaded it and just looked at it. Yeah, I did take time today to go through it, and as it was mentioned, we can do this. That's what was stated. We can add in these amounts, and it shows that you can if you have overrides. So you are not, the first override is increased to 3.75 million, and then override frequency is increased every 3 years. So that will increase the taxes for everyone in the city more frequently. Our past practice has been, and the fiscal stability is in order to keep things sustainable and manageable under the constraints of Proposition 2.5 to such time that we can no longer manage increases, and we have made overrides last at least 4 years, sometimes even out to 7 years. So those spreadsheets show that it can be done, but you are increasing the taxes significantly on the residents in Northampton. The only other comments I had was some of the assumptions that were made. New growth was increased to $950,000. New growth is actually based on building projects, commercial and residential. And as we look at the economy that we're facing with inflation, increased costs, I am concerned we might make $950,000. However, if we have the same new growth that we got this year and we use the 13.93 tax rate, we will not make $950,000 in new growth. So I just want to mention that. That is a budget line that you have to be very careful with, and it is risky to increase it by so much. That is always a safety net for any other line that doesn't make it. We can use usually new growth because we are a little bit usually under that. So that's my comment about the $950,000 increase for new growth. The other comment I have, is the increase in cannabis. That was increased to $1 million. We only took in $944,000 in FY 2024. I don't think it's a good practice to project more than we've already taken in the year before. That is a budget line that has actually been dropping since its peak, and only the last 3 quarters, the first 2 quarters of FY 2025 and the last quarter of FY 24, where we've seen it coming back a little bit. So I have concerns about that projection. These are increases in FY 2025, so we could talk about the reason you would actually do that. But the miscellaneous PVTA 5 college and investment income was another one that was increased. That is the one with the investment income. Again, we've talked about this. I have concerns about raising that to the amount. They raised it to $2.7 million. You should never increase a budget line close to its peak. Even if it's in his scenario, he's doing it for 1 year, FY 2025. However, that we've talked about this. The budget line, that's a very volatile budget line. It's based on cash balances, it's based on interest rates, and it's based on how the economy is doing. All of things that are very precarious right at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen. So, as I mentioned, I've been reluctant to push that line or to rely on that line as we continue forward. Certainly in FY 2026, I do that, as you can see in the spreadsheet. And then comments about the scenarios. Again, as I stated, the overrides, not only is it the increase in frequency, it is an increase for the initial 3.7 million, 3.75 million for the first override. And that's an increase in the tax base for all residents. And as noted in my memo, historically, smaller overrides have passed, and there is a concern that the larger ones will not pass. And if we base budgets on the larger amounts, and they don't pass, we have a significant deficit. So again, when it says that it is clear that they can be done only if these large increases and often overrides pass.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask one more question. This wasn't put to us as a question by Council President Jarrett, but I am curious about it. He suggested that we look at this financial order in two parts. One, money that would be that we would want to have rolled into next year's budget, and then a possibility of some one-time funds, but coming from the undesignated funds rather than the Fiscal Stabilization Fund. What can you talk about the pros and cons of undesignated funds being used versus the Fiscal Stabilization Fund? Either, please.
So the Fiscal Stabilization Fund is meant for operating. So, I mean, we could look at using free cash for one time. We don't yet know what the final snow and ice budget's going to be. That has to come out of free cash. So we don't quite know how much that's. We don't know what we still don't have the amount from the storm a couple weeks ago, and of course, who knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks, whether there's more winter coming. So we don't have a total for that yet to know what the remainder will be in free cash.
So the answer is we know what we have in the Fiscal Stability Fund, we don't know what we have in free cash.
Right, so I mean, I think we'd want to be careful about not taking too much out of what's remaining in free cash to make sure that we can true up snow and ice.
Okay, those are the questions I heard, Councilor.
Yeah, there was just one that I had that you maybe didn't have. And just to clarify on that, though, but currently we have $1,065,977 in the undesignated in free cash, without knowing that we had this. Okay, so the only question that I had written down that someone asked was, well, actually two. One is, it might have been rhetorical. I'm comfortable answering it. It's committee members do not have to. I was a special ed teacher in Nicaragua for a year when I was 19, and I was a special ed assistant for 6 years with the Concord Area Special Education, but I never ran a classroom or did hiring or any of the kind of classroom management. No one should feel I have to. I felt comfortable answering that. Someone had asked if we had, I believe they asked if we had classroom teaching experience. So just trying to look at count. Okay. And the other question was for Dr. Bonner that I had was, what do you think, what is the harm in attempting to hire, to do these hires? This is a question from public comment. What is the downside to attempting to fill these positions now?
Okay, so there is no downside. I think that people take my words and automatically have weaponized it. I said that there is a strong potential that it will be a challenge to have good hires, and everyone, right away took those words. It's not that it's going to stop us from posting. We still have some vacancies that have been open since the beginning of the school year. So, we will post and we will interview, and if, we can fill the position, we fill the position.
Thank you, Superintendent. So I think, are we moving on to, that was all the questions we had from the public. And so now what we were going to do is move on to deliberating. As a committee, we have to vote to recommend either neutrally, positively, or negatively the order in front of us, and we were going to discuss that now. I believe if Dr. Bonner could stay, we probably, Well, let me ask the committee members if they have any further questions because the questions we were giving you were questions from the public, not necessarily from committee members. Let me get, I can't see Councilor Elkins. There we go. So, boy, it's over. So, Councilor Labarge, did you have a question for Dr. Bonner because she wanted to?
No, I was just concerned because she mentioned about some information for everybody, and she said that she could have that information made for us.
Yeah, what information? Oh, okay. Did she just say that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that when she was asking about going back to the principal?
Yes. Yeah. What, Councilor Rothenberg?
Yes,
okay.
got it.
Oh, you got it.
When she was asking about going,
Sorry.
she said she would be willing to go back to the principals and ask them
To
see what else they could do to meet the full amount of 600,000.
Okay. And so you would like her to do that?
Yes.
So Councilor Labarge was saying that request to go back to the principals with the amount that you said you were willing to go back to them. Is that right? Did I get?
I understood.
The 300. Yeah. Okay.
So that should not stop you from making a decision of what you want to allocate to us this evening. I mean, we're starting to get into school committees' authority in terms of how they want to appropriate the budget. So they asked for an overall amount of $600,000. In the quick turnaround time, this is what was given to me by the principals. I'm sure if I go back and ask if there's additional needs, I'm sure that they will share what those needs are. And if they cannot expend their allocation, then I will then start to reallocate what funds are left.
Okay, so any other committee members before we let Dr. Bonner go? I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you for your time, Superintendent. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
So committee members, we have a decision to make about, whether to recommend neutrally, positively, or negatively the order. Just a reminder, I mean, you can make suggested amendments to full council, and that the order does not say whether to roll it in or not. That's potentially a different conversation. So those are the parameters. Any thoughts? Make sure.
You know what? I'm uncomfortable, very, very uncomfortable here.
Oh, could you turn your mic on? Thank you.
Yeah, and here's my reasons.
Could you just turn your mic on so we could hear you? But thank you.
And here's my reasons. We're going from 600,000, and then we're going to 297,000 something, right? I look at what's being asked at that 297,000, which bothers me. Some of the things that I'm seeing here bothers me, like new positions, but here we are looking at what they're asking for at the 297,000, as I have great concerns about hiring. Why are we not getting the people, the teachers, that have lost their jobs and getting them back? This is my concerns here. And it bothers me. It bothers me when we have community care also to fill in for the schools, the cafeteria area, and walk in the halls out there. I don't get it. I'm uncomfortable here, and it's like, I think it's extremely important about all the students in our schools. And we have some serious, serious conditions here of having a good quality of education. And when I hear how far behind we are on the reading and so forth with many of our students, and then I look at the students with the disabilities, and I have great concerns with that. Great concerns. As a family, who's my brother, you know, my husband and his family had a sister with disabilities. And this is a very hard decision here. Here we're getting one tonight for $297,000 versus the $600. And I just feel what I heard the superintendent come out and say that she could hold, if we wanted to hold, okay, that's a big word for me, hold. Why she could find out some more information for us. I think I heard her state something about she could, if we would put it on hold, she would get that information. And Stan, did you get that when she came out with that, please?
I think what she said, Counselor, is that if we, and I'm not sure that we should be directing her, but if someone directed her to go back to the principals and ask them for their, how would they spend the balance of the $600,000, she could do that.
Right, but I think it's our business too, as a legislative legislative group here, to ask questions about this. When I hear a superintendent come out and say we want to put it on hold, do we want to put it on hold?
I don't, Counselor, I don't think she wants to put it on hold.
She said it was up to us. But this is a lot of my concerns. As a counselor, I hear a lot of people. I have concerns for every student at the high school, just like you, throughout all our elementary schools. The facts are coming no matter what. No matter what. We're going to go through Proposition 2.5. It's going to happen. Is it going to pass? I don't think so. I don't think so. Because I'm hearing from people. Let them do it. They're not. They feel that they're just feed out of this city. Taxes going up. Now we're hearing possibly stormwater and our water fees. Something's got to go here. And as far as I'm concerned, the students here in our school are very valuable to me and many, many other people. And I think you cannot really put a price tag on it at all. I care about all my students and people with disabilities. And I have my rights as a city councilor to say how I feel about this. I'm not happy at this 297, dropping it all the way down from there. I don't think it is serving the purpose. That's my feelings here. Something has to be done. And I don't know which way to go. I'm being truthful about it, and nobody's going to change my mind.
Right.
Somehow, and I think our council president has worked very, very tirelessly on this, and our vice president, the both of them together. And it's like, I don't know what we're going to do here, but I know myself what I'm going to do. And I'm going to take it right from my heart, right from my heart. So that's it.
Well, I heard the council. I appreciate all that, Councilor. But the point I'm making is I don't think anybody wants us to delay any further on making decision. And tonight is a recommendation, and tomorrow night it's a decision. And what I heard the council president suggest is that we come up with a figure of one-time funds that we are comfortable with. in addition to possibly a $50,000 appropriation that would be rolled into the budget for FY26.
Yeah, that's what I heard, and I guess I hear you. My thoughts are, to be honest, I don't think an override will pass if we keep going where we're going with the schools.
I agree.
No one wants to pay more taxes for less in the schools. So I understand the concern around overrides, but the guaranteed way to make an override maybe fail is to not sufficiently fund the schools, in my opinion. So that's the first thing. So yeah, I don't think on a practical level, I don't think delaying, we're going to vote tomorrow. This recommendation is, it's not etched in stone, but it will give information to full council. So we'll be able to talk more tomorrow about some of those concerns.
Exactly.
So we're trying to get to the recommendation stage. So I guess that's what I heard from President Jarrett as well, in terms of his calculations. He sent us. I think everyone saw the email with his spreadsheet and the amount he had worked with. But
It went to all the counselors and school committee members.
okay, yeah.
Was it, Laura?
Alex's memo and projection spreadsheet that he sent out.
Yeah.
Right. So, and what I really liked about Councilor Jarrett's proposal is it kind of alerted me to the idea that you don't have to roll it all in. It doesn't all have to be one-time funds. I mean, one-time allocations. Right. So, I just had a minor question while I'm thinking of it. Mayor, what about the fencing and the gym equipment? Couldn't that be something that comes from, I mean, that's a one-time expense.
Yeah, those would be one-time.
So could we just look, is that something we could do, or you could work with them to do, or something?
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of those requests before.
Right.
I mean,
they probably haven't been asked.
well, they're not enough for a capital project. So
right, they're less than 10,000, right, yeah.
Capital plan.
Right, so they'd have to come out of but, well, I'm hoping that those can be addressed.
Exactly.
Those seem like low-hanging fruit, and just in terms of, because they're one time, that maybe they're not even part of this amount, but, okay. Check one thing. For myself, I just wanted to look at the order one more time, the original order. So, counselors, I mean, I'm comfortable. We are tomorrow. We are going to meet. This is all fresh in our heads. We're going to have all the same resources. I am comfortable giving this a positive recommendation, the original order, and then we can discuss it more in full council tomorrow. But I would like to hear also what you are thinking.
At the 600,000.
Yes, I'm looking at the original order.
Yeah. I'll support that.
Okay. Well, why don't I make a motion, and then we can discuss. Does that make sense? Yeah, I can make a motion. So move to give a positive recommendation to Order 25.217 in order to make $600,000 mid-year appropriation to MPS. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so I made the motion. Okay. Discussion.
Well, we don't have a plan for spending $600,000. We have a plan for spending $295,000.
Okay.
So, no, I can't support a positive recommendation on spending that I don't, expenditures that haven't been proposed.
Yes, Counselor?
Yes. How about if we do a neutral recommendation? That way, at City Council, we can talk about it, about that plan. Where's the plan?
Yeah.
That's valuable. Where's the plan?
The other option would be to go with the number of 294,883.02, but that's an amendment we'd have to suggest. We could, because that's actually not the order in front of us. So,
No.
So that would have to be a suggested amendment that we could give for a positive recommendation. So, I mean, we could vote, yeah. Anyway. Oh, yes, thank you.
Hands up.
Thank you.
We have a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
I think we have to do that thing if it's going to be withdrawn, to vote on that, or unless we all consent, or vote on the motion that's on the floor and move on to another motion if it doesn't pass.
Right. I was just thinking you could also, yeah, that's true, unless you amend this motion, or you could just vote on this motion and then see if there's another motion. I think you could probably do it either way, but in any case, well, do you want to discuss, is there any further discussion on my motion?
Could I be recognized?
Yeah, no, we're not going to do that. We're just deliberating with the committee.
Are you talking to?
School committee's purview.
Are you talking to Councilor Elkins?
No. So, is there any more discussion on the motion on the floor? Okay, so.
Yes.
We can make it.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Walton.
No.
Councilor Elkins.
No.
And Councilor LaBarge.
Yes.
Okay, it's a split, right, so that's a split. We'll have some splaining to do about that one. Okay, so, because it's split down there. So, yeah, so the floor's, so I will make a motion to recommend the order with, I'm trying to think how to do this legit. With the amendment of 294,883.02, the amount that Dr. Bonner was able to line item for us. So I believe I can, does that make sense, Laura?
Yeah, 29.
Adam, I'm amending the original orders for 600, and I'm, yeah, I'm amending it with that amendment.
With the 297.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so that's, I'm making that motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
This is on the amendment.
Yes.
To amend the financial order so that it is the amount that the superintendent has presented to us.
Yes.
Okay.
Which I think is a. Okay, it doesn't sound like, do you have any? Okay, oh.
This is simply on amending the figure.
Well, this is a new motion.
Yes.
Right.
But it is to amend the figure, and then we have to have a motion in terms of what our recommendation is.
Right, yes, okay. So, right, so this vote would be on just the amending. Okay. So, Okay, so let's take a vote on that.
Okay, Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
Oh,
I have a question, sorry.
can we do that in a little bit?
I think she started to raise her hand.
I didn't see her hand up either.
Hearing.
It's okay, we'll just vote, it's fine.
Should pay better attention.
Counselor Moulton, Counselor Elkins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
To amend
To amend
the amount, from
the
600.
recommendation to amend though, because we can't change the
Right,
order.
yeah, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay, Counselor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Maori.
Yes. Okay, so that's the amended. And I want to see what Counselor Elkins had to say. No, yeah. Counselor Elkins, did you have something that you said you wanted to say? Okay.
I was going to move a neutral recommendation for this amended motion.
Okay.
Amended financial order.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second. Okay, any discussion? You're all going to have to remind me of all our different motions tomorrow. Okay, no discussion, so roll call, please, on the neutral recommendation for the amount of, the amended amount of 294,88302.
Okay, Counselor Elkins.
I don't think she heard you.
Counselor Elkins?
No, I'm thinking.
Oh. That's at the 297.
No.
It's a neutral.
Okay. Counselor Labarge?
Yes.
Counselor Maori?
No.
And Counselor Moulton?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I just thought it was just checking how to move.
Let me, sorry. Did you get, hold on, just 1 second, guys.
This is getting confusing.
Yeah, we'll go over it. Let me just mute this. Okay. They're muted, though. Okay. All right. Okay, so we've had, so that did not pass. So we don't have, so we're going to just have to explain to council our thinking on our motion. So we had a positive recommendation motion for the 600, the original order, which which was split, which means it fails. And then we had the motion as amended with the amount that Dr. Bonner gave us on the spreadsheet, a neutral recommendation, and that failed, split down the middle. And I'm going to make a motion to positively recommend the amount that Dr. Bonner, the amended amount, because we made it a motion to amend it, and I would like to make the motion to approve, to recommend the order amended with the 294,883.02. So I would have to have a second. So instead of a neutral recommendation, which it would be a positive recommendation for the amount that Dr. Bonner has outlined here.
On a positive recommendation?
Mm-hmm. So I made that motion, and I would need a second for us to vote on it.
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Let me just get this out of the way so I can see Councilor Elkins. Okay. Any discussion, councilors? If not, we'll just,
Well, my preference, the reason I moved a neutral recommendation is we've had a lot of information that's been presented to us, starting with Monday, and I've still got questions that I need some answers to. I'd like to get this to the floor of the council so the entire council has an opportunity to consider the request, the recommendations that Superintendent Bonner has sent to us. But at this point, I don't feel I can vote positively on that recommendation.
Yeah, I understand. So I think we'll explain, we can explain, well, anyway, let's let's actually vote on this because it's on the floor and it's been seconded. So Laura, could you take a roll call? And just to remind, this is a positive recommendation for the amount that Dr. Bonner, of 294,883.02, that Dr. Bonner, this is for a positive recommendation on the amended order, which has been seconded, and yes, and so, sorry.
Counselor Labarge?
Yes.
Okay, Counselor Maori?
Yes.
Moulton?
No.
And Counselor Elkins?
No.
Okay.
In the interest of the hour, I would move a neutral recommendation, so we take a revote on that.
Wait, didn't we, wait, hold on just a sec.
Yeah.
Didn't we already take a vote on a new?
We did, I'm asking for another vote.
Oh, revote, oh, okay.
She's going to change her vote.
Okay, got it, okay. Okay, so, any discussion, do you discuss on revote?
Sure.
Does any discussion? No. So Counselor Elkins would like to take that vote again for the neutral recommendation. Is there any discussion?
Right. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that because it's going to go on the floor anyways, and we're going to be talking about it again. So I don't have a problem with the neutral.
Okay. So let's roll call on that one.
Okay. Counselor Maori?
No.
Counselor Moulton?
Yes.
Counselor Elkins?
Yes.
Okay, that passes.
Yes.
So we will present a neutral recommendation for the amended amount to council. And committee members, I think that, I appreciate our work here. I think that in conveying this to council, I think we can show them some of the dilemmas. And so I think it's valuable.
Right.
Just to say that. Okay, so,
okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
What I want to say too is my voting has nothing to do with the mayor.
Okay.
I think the mayor, I'm just stating this.
I know, but we're getting off, we're done with that agenda item, so.
I know.
Let's try to, okay.
So that's critical here.
Yep. Okay. So I'm really glad that we're meeting tomorrow. We'll all be fresh in our heads. Okay, so moving on, we have one more item. The discussion of the invitation to meet jointly with Budget and Property Subcommittee with some dates listed. Let me just, I just want to look at, I had, uh-oh, I've lost.
I think you still needed the.
Oh, I thought one more thing. We're really close, sorry.
I'm taking my vote.
I like it. You know what? That's an accommodation. Go for it. I'm fine with that, if you want to go sit over there. Okay, let me just find I just wanted to, okay. This is the email I got from the chair of Budget and Property. Basically, we had, I think, if you recall, counselors, we had, Member LaBounty had kind of suggested that that school committee members should be meeting with finance, and we discussed that, and I had actually planned with the former chair, Karen Foster, to meet around this time. So this is kind of on that. And so the purpose of a joint meeting between finance and the school committee Budget and Property would be to, well, first of all, the chair is interested in what we would like to put on that agenda. But all they had was to simply provide an opportunity for the finance committee to learn more about the school committee budget and ask questions. But they are open to other ideas. So there'd be no deliberation or voting. It would be a joint meeting to discuss, to have a general discussion about process around the school committee budget. So the chair proposed 3 dates, and why don't I have the times? Maybe, I wonder if not.
March 10th, March 17th, and March 24th.
Yes, Councilor Elkins.
Because it decided that we're going to do this?
No, I was just,
Do it.
oh, okay. Well, I was just trying to get all the information, and I see I put 3 dates, but I didn't put the time that Budget and Property meets.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, okay. So that would be, for March 10th, 17th, or the 24th. Okay, interesting. Okay, so I guess we could, I don't know if this is something we would vote on. I guess we could vote on it, but it's really, it's not.
You don't necessarily have to take a formal vote. You'd have to discuss it and decide.
Yeah, let's discuss it a little bit more. Is there something, Councilor Elkins, that would having a more precise agenda be useful?
No,
Or-
if I want to educate myself on the Budget and Property Committee affairs, it's a meeting I can watch and have, in fact, reviewed. I mean, school committee budget, any member of school committee is welcome to come to our finance meetings and hear everything we hear from all the other departments. It's 100% their only purview are the schools, and I don't, that is their work to do, and I appreciate that. It is not our only consideration, and we have a great deal on our plate coming up in this budget season, and so I don't need to do that.
Okay. Any other counselors want to speak first? Counselor Labarge.
Yeah, I want to echo what Councilor Elkins said. It's right now, I think they need to look and start off with their budgets and so forth, and start doing a change with their budget. And I don't think we should be involved with that right now at this period. That's my feeling.
I'm frankly surprised to hear this. We've been talking about meeting with Budget and Property for almost a year. And I think that the budget season will go much more smoothly if we have, I think the school budget will loom large in the budget season. And I think having that interaction with Budget and Property and being able to understand and establish that with them is very valuable, and was actually a really big request of the public many times over months that we do this, that we meet jointly. And actually even tonight I saw that a member Weisenfreund was here, and because she and Member Steiner on Budget and Property, I couldn't recognize her because we hadn't listed it as a joint meeting. I would love the opportunity to talk freely with all, with the committee at once, because without a joint meeting, we can only talk to one person, because a quorum is 2. So we can't hear from other members of the Budget and Property unless it's a joint meeting, essentially. So anyway, that's my thought. But yeah.
Yeah, I appreciated Member LaBounty's discussion with us last September, which sort of started this effort to increase communication between the council and the school committee, and it seemed logical. There was some discussion about creating a new committee, but it seemed logical to have the finance and the Budget and Property as existing standing subcommittees work together. I would welcome that opportunity if it's done in a collegial and a collaborative and a civil manner. I have my doubts about whether we can do that.
I can only speak for myself that I can do that.
I'm not suggesting that any of us can't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I very much respect Member LaBounty, and I thought it was very wise that she wanted to bring us together to have that relation, to have that discussion. So I'm very much, I don't really know how I would tell my constituents that I would refuse to meet with school committee Budget and Property when invited. So, Councilor Elkins, I'm sorry.
None of us are precluded from meeting with anybody from that committee or any other member of school committee. Open meeting laws don't, pertain to, I mean, individual school committee members and subcommittee members need to be mindful of serial communication within communications they have. That's all of our own obligations, but don't tell your constituents you're not meeting with people. I know you speak to members of school committee all the time. We all do.
As finance committee, I'm talking to tell them that the council finance committee refuses as a whole, with a quorum, is not going to meet with school committee budget and property for a low stakes discussion, with no, meaning nothing to vote on.
None of this is low stakes.
Okay, that's fair, but meaning that there's no deliberate, there's no item before us that's, it would be, I thought Member LaBounty's part of the point was to establish a rapport. And so, yeah, I'm surprised.
My recollection of that discussion was that it was an interesting discussion, and that some issues, I mean, I enjoyed that conversation, and I consider Member LaBounty a friend. I mean, she's somebody I speak to and have spoken, I know. That's not the point. There are, I raised some concerns and thoughts about how it would work, and then it wasn't, followed. But I can tell you, the current leadership of that committee, I don't have any interest. I mean, he was in the newspaper mocking me.
Okay, so, okay.
So I'm just gonna make that choice. We can schedule whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm not gonna participate in that.
Okay, Counselor. So, Counselor Barge.
Yes. I have to.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. She just turned your mic on because.
Or do they say the flying nun? I have to agree with what I'm hearing from Counselor Elkins, okay? There's been so much going on. And you know what's going on. And it's really affecting counselors here, of attitudes of the bullying right down the line. And I can see what's going on here. She's not comfortable. I'm not comfortable either. I'm just letting you know that, I mean, we're trying to be respectful as counselors, and it's been very, very difficult with the bullying and the harassment going on. And I just think I'm not ready for that. I'm not.
Well, I hear you. I don't want anyone to feel bullied. I think that there's two sides to. I think other people feel bullied in the public as well, and so I think there's a lot of hurt there. Ideally, I think that electeds should, try to work those things out. But I understand that there's feelings here, and I don't want to push that right now. So what I will say is, I'm going to give this some thought. Okay. For us to have a joint meeting, we would need 2 finance committee members to have a quorum. So my choice is either to schedule a meeting, and you don't have to, obviously you don't have to show up, but we may not have quorum. Or alternatively, I could meet with budget and property and then report back, with any. So if I do that, I still would love any feedback from you of things you're interested in. But I would like to think about this, if that's okay. Does that sound good to everyone? Yes.
I think we need 3 members to have.
I'm sorry, I was thinking of budget and property. No, 3 members, they would need 2, and we would need 3. Yes, excuse me. I forget. They have 3 and we have 4. So yes, we would need 3 members to, so I think, why don't I do this?
They're going to have 2, and we got to
yes, yes. Their quorum is 2, and ours is 3. Thank you, Counselor. So.
Well, yeah. We can all attend a budget and property committee if as individual counselors if we want to. I mean, we don't need to have a quorum to have any number of us could could be there. If it were a formal meeting of the Finance Committee, then we would need 3 members.
Right.
And I don't want to leave anybody thinking that I believe that none of us on finance aren't willing to meet with other elected officials. We are, but we want to do that in a productive way that is collegial and collaborative. And my conversations with 2 members of the school committee this week, they both agreed with me that after the column that Councilor Elkins references, it's very difficult to imagine us working productively with a committee that's headed by the writer of that column.
Right, it's caused a lot of...
Well, yeah, there are a lot of problems. It's very problematic when the two financial bodies of council and school committee do not feel they can jointly meet together and participate in that way. So I think let's.
She got her hand up.
Yep.
I mean, it's worth saying. I mean, it's unprecedented. That school committee, budget finance, and the council finance committee will have met together. I know some other towns and communities, or I've seen some in the news and paper that there have been some meetings like that. And maybe that's a road we could have gone down, but there's a lot of water under the bridge between this school committee and this council. That's what we're saying, but it's not at all unprecedented or unusual. I mean,
it is in my. I mean, I've been on this is my 3rd term, and I've never encountered that. Is all I'm saying. I haven't heard.
We've never had a meeting of a joint meeting that's like suggested like this.
I've never had. I'm just saying that we've never had a situation where a committee is refusing to meet as a committee. That's what I'm saying. That's never come up. I'm just saying it's never happened. That's all I'm saying. Okay, I'm just going to leave that there. Okay, so why don't we? I'm going to. I will plan to go to budget and property, and do that outreach by myself. I will let you know when I go which these dates I'm going in case someone does want to come. I will report back at our next finance meeting, and if you have anything you would like me to discuss with budget and property, I'll send a reminder email. So if there's I have some procedural questions about school committee and superintendent and that whole chain of command. And anyway, I have some questions. So I'm going to have some questions. I will send I will send an email where I tell you the date I'm going and ask if you have anything you would like me to discuss with them, and then I will report back at our next finance meeting. Yes, Councilor Lavarge.
Yes, thank you. Okay, who is the chair on it?
The chair now, it was Karen Foster, now it's Member Stein. Okay. And then, is there a vice chair? No, okay.
And so who else is on?
It's Anat, who's in the room, and then Carrie LaBounty. So it's 3 members.
Okay, so Annette took Karen's place.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, although, she's not chair, but yeah. Okay, so thank you. I'll send you that email, and that's the end of our agenda except for new business. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn if there's no new business.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. Second. Roll call, please.
Councilor Maori.
Yes.
Councilor Moulton.
Yes.
Councilor Elkins.
Yes.
And Councilor Labarge.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, committee. Good night.